In this video, I will show you step by step to create an attack animation cycle. You can hide the joints since we will only use the controllers for animation. Let's create the first pose at frame 1. Bring the left leg to the front and the right leg to the back. Bring down the hip controller to relax the legs a little bit. To tilt the right leg, bring the right knee controller to her right. Bring the hip down a little bit more. After you applied the changes, hit the S key to create a keyframe. This is the initial pose. Shrink down the timeline since we will only use about 30 frames for this animation. At frame 5, bring the hip up and forward. This pose will be the anticipation pose. The character is about to pull her leg up. At frame 10, bring the hip up and forward, and we will create the preparation pose. Pull her right foot up. The character is storing energy and preparing a strong kick. Select the knee controllers, create keyframes at frame 1 and frame 5. At frame 10, bring the right knee controller up and let the knee aim to the center. Rotate the right foot down. We can tilt the hip at this pose. Tilt it forward would give the kick more power. At frame 13, we will create the action pose. Bring her right foot forward. Tilt the hip backward and move the hip forward. At frame 17, she will pull her foot back. At frame 22, her right foot will contact the ground. We can duplicate frame 5 to here and use that pose as the start point. Frame 28 will be the initial pose, and we can duplicate frame 1 to here. Select the hip controller, copy frame 13 to frame 17. Copy frame 5 to frame 22 and frame 28. Go back to frame 22 and adjust the pose. Bring the hip upward and forward. Bring the right foot forward. The animation on the legs has some glitches, and we will fix that by smooth the motion curves. Select all controllers. Go to the graph editor. Select all keyframes on these controllers. Apply the easy ease to smooth the motion curves. Now the animation is much smoother. We can add some animations to the spine. Select the waist controller, hold the shift key and add the spine in the chest. Block a keyframe at frame 10 and frame 17. Go to frame 13, tilt them backward. Select the neck and the head controllers. Block a keyframe at frame 10 and frame 17. Go to frame 13, tilt them forward. Let's hold the kick pose for a longer time. At frame 12, move the foot controller forward and create a keyframe. At frame 15, move the foot controller forward and create a keyframe. When you are done, select all controllers, go to the graph editor and select all keyframes. Apply the easy ease to smooth the animation. Now, let's pose the arms. Put a value on the fist channel to close the palm a little bit. The fist channel was created with the driven key in the earlier video. Create a keyframe and block the pose at frame 1. We can duplicate the keyframe to frame 10. Bring both arms upward at frame 5 before the character pulling up her legs. At frame 10 and frame 13, stretch both arms down when the character kicks. Duplicate frame 10 to frame 17. Duplicate frame 1 to frame 22 and frame 28. Go to the graph editor and smooth the motion curves. Select the right knee controller, copy frame 5 and paste it to frame 22. I keep smoothing the motion curves on all controllers to examine the result of the changes. Adjust the first pose a little bit to give the character more personality. And copy that frame to the last frame of the animation cycle. At frame 5, adjust the position of the elbow controller to make the elbows aim down. Polishing the right foot's motion a little bit. We can add a keyframe at frame 24 to let the right foot touch the ground plane earlier. That's the entire workflow of animating an attack cycle. In the later lessons, I will import the animation to the game engine and create an indie game with this character.